You're listening to the 4-Phase Cycle Podcast with your hosts, Dr. Alex and Megan of ZESTY Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you've definitely come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and best friends, we use the 4 phases of the female cycle in combination with functional lab work and mindset practices to transform the lives of the women we work with.
We also have a whole lot of fun along the way. If you're new around here, it's best to start with season 1 before jumping around and plan to roll up your sleeves. Showing up for ourselves and enjoying our lives is what good health is all about. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making changes.
Hello everybody. Alex here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had a nice holiday season. And here we are time has just flown by so fast. But I'm glad you're here. Glad that you're joining me. Today we're talking about a really important distinction to make between what is planning ahead versus what is planning for something to not work the way that we want it to work, right? This is a thing that comes up so much, right? When we begin to look at our life experience differently and begin to be intentional about what we are hardwiring into our brain and what we are asking it to look for, the solutions, the answers, all of those things, there can be a tendency for people to start to question, like, well, what if I plan for it not working out? Like, what if I create a safety net? Am I just really telling my brain that it won't work? And it's a really good question. That's a really valid question, because sometimes in life we could use a safety net. And then there are times where really most of that activity is rooted in doubt and fear that what we're saying that we're wanting or what we're planning on experiencing is really not probably going to happen, and we better plan for some other things, right? So we're going to dig into that in a second. I wanted to invite you to our January 11th 2-hour habit masterclass, where we're going to be talking about all things brain-based when it comes to habits and beginning to have a life where you act and do the things that you choose to do and that supports you being who you want to be. The kind of life experience that you have, the kind of way that your body feels, the relationships you have with others, the way you make an impact in the world. All of that has its roots in brain-based, because if it was not, the emotions that we feel and the thoughts that we have, we wouldn't even perceive them, right? So there's a lot of this, while we have all the components of ourselves essentially at the root cause of things, the brain is involved, right? And so anytime that we can better understand how to interact with our brain, how to encourage it to do the supporting activities, the supporting thoughts that get us to our goals, that is really what it's all about. And so check out the show notes. It's zestyginger.com/habit-masterclass. It's the 2-hour masterclass. You will walk away with multiple things in your toolkit of things you can pull out in real life, in real time, of addressing things, making the transition to being who you are becoming even easier. All right, so you'll walk away with that toolkit there, and there's actually a 30-day process that you'll also continue to begin to hardwire it truly into your brain so that it is part of who you are, and that's how things last, and that's how things feel the easiest in terms of ease and flow, and none of this whole usual resolutions run around where we say we want to do it and then we fall off the wagon and it's February and we don't care. So this is really the answer to that. So come join us. The link is in the show notes. All right, so back to this question of what's planning ahead and what's thinking negatively. Really, the short answer of this is the intention and the energy with which you approach it, the feel of why you're doing what you're doing. I realize that for many people, that is more nebulous than you would like. I mean, I would also like a big red flashing light to come out and be like, that's what you're doing. We don't have one of those, and I don't hear about them anytime soon. It really doesn't. This is why taking care of our emotional health, our mindset, our mental health, and our energetic space is so important, because within that clarity, we get to tell the difference between a lot of things, and that will help guide us. That's why I talk about that stuff so much, whether it comes to healing or any other goal that you have in life. The feeling behind it is super important, because when push comes to shove, there are things that it's very smart and intelligent to have safety nets around. I don't believe that anyone talking about this stuff really has the intention of having people live like, oh yeah, just like leap, don't plan for anything, like have no fallback, don't worry about, having any sort of plan to pay for things or upkeep things or make it fit into your life, right? And I think that kind of gets implied, but because it's not actually being talked about, then we have all these questions that come up, like, what does this look like, right? So what I mean by the feeling behind them is that let me give you an example. I used to have a lot of neck and head pain. I'd get really bad headaches from my neck. They're called cervicogenic headaches. They were from a number of reasons, but primarily a couple of car accidents that I was in when I was like a kid and teenager. So my neck would hurt, especially when I would travel or do certain things. So I got into the habit of booking like a chiropractor, a massage, or something else wherever I landed, or at least trying to, and you can't always, but I would try to do something that when I landed would help me address my neck, so that I can enjoy and could participate in a good way at wherever I was flying to and whatever I was doing at the time, right? That activity where you Google kind of who's available over there to do the things that I know work for me, there's two ways to do that, right? The way that I used to do it, which was the thinking negatively and kind of prepping for feeling bad and things not working and me not being in good health, is that I would essentially, when I was planning for that, I would be really, really frantic about everything. So I was really worried. I would be anxious, like, oh, what if it gets really bad? What am I going to do? Oh, I better, take this backup option, and then a backup option to that backup option, and a backup option to the third backup option, and on it would go. And I would ruminate on it. I would worry about it. I would feel stressed. My body would feel tight. And guess what? My neck got zero benefit from any of that. And of course, when I would go to the things once I landed, they would still help. And so then it became this kind of loop where, oh, traveling makes me feel bad, and I need the thing when I get there to do that, right? And so I basically began to live in that loop over and over and over again. Now, when I started realizing just how much my thoughts and my habitual kind of decisions to reinforce these things were getting hardwired in and causing the experience that I was having, then I began to talk to myself differently, right? And we talk a lot about that on the podcast, so I'm not going to go into that part here. But as you step into the identity of the new, this is where it kind of comes up, and it came up for me. Well, from that space, do I schedule something when I get there? Because if I was already healthy and I felt great, I wouldn't need to. So the interim then is kind of an interesting transition to make, right? Because sometimes on certain topics, we can make that leap and we say, you know what, I'm not putting that safety net. Like sometimes for business, people will be like, and it's an awesome thing to do if you feel called to it, like, you know what, I'm quitting my job, going all in on this business, I'm going to make it work. If that's how you feel about it, awesome. Do that. No problem. But there are times, and I think some of us are more prone to feeling called to do this and feeling the safety, a lot of it's personality, it's a lot of it's kind of our conditioning as kids and the things that have happened to us since then, all of that play a role. If that's the case, and for me, that is the case, for being an MD, I literally am taught to think 8 steps ahead down the line, so we are anticipating, and so my brain is really good at that. And there's some downsides to that, right? It's very handy at work, not always great for my personal life. So as I did that, as I'm embodying the healed version of me, I would still set and choose a couple of the things that I felt like could be options if I needed them, right? And so the energy that I was coming at it for is, okay, now of all the things I know about myself that work for me, what are going to be the couple things I'm going to pick, and I'm going to have them as a safety net. If I don't need them, great. If I need them, cool. And it's going to be great, right? The chiropractor appointment or the massage appointment or the gua sha tool that I packed or any of the number of actual things that I would do could be exactly the same as before. But from a brain perspective and a embodied perspective, saying, hey, I'm going to intelligently set up support for myself, and then having chosen those things, I'm going to feel really good about how I've taken care of myself. Now I have them, I'm going to let it go. I don't need to wonder if that's enough. I don't need to keep ruminating on it. I don't need to question if that's not going to cut it, right? All of that stuff is extraneous and doesn't actually change the safety net you're setting up for yourself. The person who is going to stay at their job a little longer and save up before taking the leap to start a business is no more wrong than the person who says, I'm going to jump and go all in. That is totally fine. It is the intention behind it that ultimately creates the success. So someone could take a leap without a safety net and do great, or they could be like, I really wasn't prepared to not have a safety net. I was just doing it because some guy on the internet told me to, or lady. That also changes it, right? It's that feeling. It's what we're making it mean. It's the narrative and the story that we're telling ourselves that then builds the tension and the stress around it, or the opposite, the narrative actually calms us down and helps us feel like, hey, I'm the one that has my own back. If I feel like I need something for support, I'm going to give it to myself. Doesn't that feel so different even as you're hearing me say it? And that's really what it looks like. So look at yourself as almost like a tuning fork when you're having these decisions, because it's the feeling behind it, the tenseness, how quick and rational or not the voices sound in your head. I mean, we can often tell, right, what feels like freaking out and what feels like a nice logical conversation that you're having with yourself based on who you are and what you know about yourself. I mean, I think we can all agree that kind of thinking and that discussion is responsible. That's where we take responsibility for taking care of ourselves, of making sure that we have what we need and are supported in the journey. The freaking out about it feels frantic, it feels disempowering, it feels like you can't think clearly, and oftentimes, really at the end of the day, the actions are going to look almost exactly the same. And that's the deal. That's why there's confusion. People don't know what category they're falling into because it may look exactly the same between you and another person. But the way you and another person are coming at it will be what the brain hears. And that's the difference that it makes. So, I would love to hear, as you're listening through this and as you go out and live it in your life, what does it feel like to you? Because we're all a little different, and I like to share on here the way it comes up for me, but I think there's lots of different ways that this can go. And the more that I hear from you all, the more I can interject, like all of us, in this conversation and share different ways of doing it, different options that we all have, because it's not a one size fits all thing. And as you know, if there's something about the way I talk about this that doesn't resonate, cool, that's an invitation to ask yourself, if I'm having this problem, but this solution that works for someone else doesn't jive with me, what does it look like for me? Because that's how I come up with it. That's basically what I've done, and then I share it on here. So if it doesn't jive, it doesn't mean it doesn't work or that there's something wrong with you. It means that there's more questions to be asked, and the better questions that we ask, the more we are happy with the results that we get. All right, so let me know, and thanks for stopping by. Come join us for the Habit Masterclass. The link is in the show notes, and we're so excited to see you there. All right, sending lots of love.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare, and we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.